Little Beer Fest 6 from the Duluth Town Square, hosted by Goodword, and I am here with Mike from Twain's Brewpub.
How you guys doing?
So how does that differ, being invited as a brewpub versus invited as a brewery?
Well, it's an honor because we're a much smaller production than a lot of the big breweries. We don't get as much name recognition because we tend to focus really, really hard on our neighborhood. So everyone who lives around us knows us. But once you get a mile or two outside, it tends to be a little bit less awareness. So this is fantastic for us because it lets a lot of people know about what we're doing that wouldn't know otherwise.
And so obviously, I'm assuming, I don't want to say obviously, I'm assuming it's a brew pub that you don't distro at all. Whatever you create is done in-house. People need to come by to try it.
That's mostly correct, yes. Occasionally we will send a keg here or there, especially if we're good friends with the place. They ask specifically, hey, I love this beer, can we get some on tap? Then we'll make it work. But for us, that's a lot of labor to get that keg out there, so it's really more of a gesture of friendship than it is for a business decision. And so we're doing that to make sure that everybody's getting what they want.
Okay. Now, talk about what you brought, because you brought a very traditional German style, which is something that me coming from the Northeast at the time was so hazy-centric, you would never find styles like that.
Sure.
And then me coming down here, I noticed that the South is a lot more lager-centric. I don't know whether that's just because of the heat, the temperature swings in the summer, that sort of thing, but it's a lot more lager-centric, so those styles are a lot more prevalent in the market. And you also brought a West Coast Pilsner, which is a trendy style of late.
Yeah.
And it's starting to pick up more momentum. And yours, I had a couple. I liked yours a lot. It had a bit more of a sweeter tone.
Okay.
What was your strategy as far as, we're going to brew these for a Little Beer Fest, and that's what we're going to bring?
Yeah. So we try to make a lot of classic styles for our brew pub, because again, when you come in, that's the only beer we forgot. So we want to make sure we hit every note, so that when you walk in as a beer drinker, if you like West Coast IPAs, we're going to have one. If you like hazy IPAs, hopefully we'll have one. They do run out sometimes. But if you're into really good golden lagers, we're going to have a few of those too. And so we want to make sure we hit different notes to appeal to everyone's palate, whether it be a fruited sour, funky beers, stouts, porters. We have a mild on right now, as well as an ESB. But the point being, for this particular festival, we wanted to choose some beers that really showcased what we can do from a breadth standpoint, but also something that would be unique enough that would perhaps let you remember us. And so the first beer you're talking about, Light Beer, is kind of like a clash between your traditional American light lager. Imagine Miller Lite, Bud Light, Coors Light. But all those have adjuncts in them. They have corn, rice, or just pure sugar in them to lighten the body, increase the alcohol content. So what we decided to do is go more into the Light Beer style, which is all malt focused.
All malt. That actually makes sense because that's what I'm currently sipping on here. Yeah. And there's a juicy sweetness to it.
Right.
What's your kind of barometer towards, this is a lager, this is a light crushable beer, how sweet do I want to make it?
So that's a really good question because that was something I churned over in my mind way too long. I tend to overthink things a little bit, and anyone who knows me will agree. I don't think anyone would argue with that. So what I was thinking about was, when you talk about Miller Lite, Coors Light, Bud Light, they all tend to have this sweetness to them. That's mostly because they're absent of hops, not because the beer itself is sweet.
Okay.
But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to have hop presence. And so a way to create sweetness with hop presence as well is to increase the mash temperature so that you create more body and rich malt flavor without having sugary sweetness.
Okay.
So the hops can balance that out so you get both of the best worlds at the same time.
Is there a way to balance sweetness where it's a natural sweetness versus an artificial sweetness? Where the average beer drinker would sip it and it's like, oh, this tastes like this little sugar things people put in their coffee versus like fruit or juice or that sort of thing. That type of sweetness.
Yeah. So part of that comes from the way we process the mash. The mixture of malted barley with hot water. So when we do it a little bit warmer, on the hotter side of things, what it tends to do is leave longer chain sugars that don't ferment out.
Okay.
But we don't want to do it too much because then it's going to be sickly sweet and very, very rich.
Sickly sweet.
Yeah.
So too much makes it that artificial. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so that balance, it's really about everything about beer making is striking balance. And it doesn't mean everything on one side is the same as the other, but having a balance, right?
Yeah. Is that strictly temperature based, or is that when you pull it out of the fermenter and put it into a keg, a tank?
So for that particular situation, it's the malts we choose along with temperatures.
Okay.
And then the yeast we choose as well. So the yeast we chose is something from Bavaria, which tends to be a little bit sweeter finishing than something from North Germany, perhaps.
So then what is the benefit to, I know certain styles you leave in the tank longer than others. So what is the benefit to leaving the beer in the tank longer for a lager versus an ale where you pull faster?
So the best analogy I can come up with for that is lagers are very, very slow moving beers. So if you work in an industry or at a job where you've got a lot of backlog, you constantly have work on your hand, you want to chew through a little bit at a time, because if you try to chew through it too fast, you make mistakes, right? And so moving through all that work at a slow pace allows you to survive and thrive, but also allows the work to be done correctly. So that is lager brewing in a nutshell, is it's very slow. And so, yes, we do let that beer sit in a tank a lot longer. In fact, that beer sat in the fermenter and was allowed to ferment and pseudo-lager, I would say, for about 6 weeks. Okay. And then we finish lagered it, which is a lower temperature. So we do this very, very slow coast down, dropping about a temperature of like 1 degree or 2 every day. For about a week and a half, and then held it there for another 2 weeks. And what that really does is allows the richness of the beer to come out without it being kind of funky or rich or sweet in a bad way.
So that means that if you wanted to make a saison, you leave it in a little, you push that limit a little more.
It's the exact opposite. You're right. So you would ferment hotter and then crash immediately to preserve that character. So what we want to do is clean it up. In this particular beer style.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so we've nerding out on lagers a lot, and Little Beer Festival, Little Beer 6 specifically, is about crushable beers and lagers. So what point, in your opinion, either as a consumer or as a brewer with brewing expertise, at what point does a beer stop being crushable? What's the sweet spot?
That's a good question. It's a hard one to pinpoint. It depends on what you're doing. Like, I feel like beer is another friend to the party. And so
another friend.
So like you're hanging out with a couple guys or girls or whatever group of people who you're friends with, right? And so the beer is another part of that. Sometimes you want something that's going to be very easy to drink and not the center of the show, right? And in that case, these beers do that. It very much slides along with whatever it is you're doing.
Complement to the event.
Perfect. Yeah, it's complementary to what you're doing. It doesn't steal your attention. But sometimes you want to have a one-on-one conversation with someone and really get deep into their lives and what's happening with them. And that's like an imperial stout or a barley wine where you're focused on that beer and nothing else.
It breaks all the premonitions down.
So it's a great nightcap in that sense, because you're going to sit there and you're just going to sip it and you're going to taste this thing, you're going to taste that thing, you're going to taste some nuttiness, some toasted bread, right? You'll get some like caramel notes or whatever the beer might have, and it's very cerebral. But this is like more, we're going to hang out and chat, and this is just going to facilitate that.
A deeper conversation implies a heavier, higher gravity beer that you can think about as you're sipping when you're talking versus more than 2 people, 3, 4. You just want to slam them back.
Yeah, let's just have a good time, right?
Yeah. All right. So how many of these crushable beers, lagers, or whatever the case may be, would it take for you to challenge a kangaroo to a fight?
Oh, like 0.
Oh, dude, you're just that
Let's just do
brash.
I saw that video on YouTube where the guy like dodged and then punched the kangaroo, right? It's inspiring.
Now, is that because you want to go into the kangaroo fight totally sober to beat the kangaroo, or because you're just that brass balls things? Like, kangaroo? Yeah, I got this.
I mean, if the situation is I have to fight a kangaroo, I'd probably, let's go in with 0, fight the kangaroo, and then celebrate with some beers after.
That is a unique answer to everywhere else that I've asked that question thus far.
Is that right?
That's awesome. Well, I like uniqueness and difference because it varies up the video, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mike from Twain's.
Yeah.
Awesome to meet you. Great talking.
Good to meet you too.
Yeah, we had some great combos off camera with some great combos on camera.
Yeah.
Cheers from Little Beer 6.
Absolutely.